Hey, what's happening, everybody? Willie here at the old Great Outdoors. I'm just sitting here pondering the old Johnson Country Mile 10. I did get a chance to actually use this thing the other day. Now, I did a lot of using. That's right, I used it a lot. I did a lot of flinging, a lot of casting, a lot of retrieving, a lot of bait changing. I said a few things I probably shouldn't have said. Not going to play those particular parts of it for you, but evidently the fish knew I was coming. They were scared. They were scared of the Country Mile 10. But let me tell you what, this thing will cast a country mile, because what I ended up doing was putting on a Whopper Plopper 90. And I couldn't do anything. I couldn't do anything with worms, jigs, nothing. They just would not hit. Well, the water is extremely low right now at my review spot where I took this thing to. And the only thing I could do was I was seeing bass chasing shad and minnows around the edge. Well, my jig that I normally use, my little jig and the little Charlie Brewers, I was just grabbing grass left and right. I could not get along the edge where those fish were at. So I went to something that would float, and I went to the old Whopper Plopper 90. And this thing, I was blasting that Whopper Plopper 90 about 80 yards. I mean, I was just blasting this thing, and it was letting that thing go out there. Now, I'm going to show you some of that footage. There was only a couple of fish. I got a couple hits. Well, I got one major hit, and I caught one fish. And on that one fish, I was at a point where I had about given up, and I had the camera behind me very far. So I actually had hooked the fish and had to go back to the camera, turn it on, and then come back down to the water's edge and try to get the fish in. I'm gonna let you see those two little snippets real quick, and then we'll talk about the old Country Mile. What's happening, everybody? And I'm hoping that you are hearing me, because if you noticed, I'm kind of far away. We got new technology. See this piece of burnt toast on my chest here? A little tiny piece. This is a new cordless microphone by Rode. I'm really hoping it works so you don't always have to have the chest view of me fishing, or whatever we do for that matter. I'm truly hoping this works out. Spend a little money I didn't have, but hey, that's life. What do we have here? Johnson Country Mile. Now we're at my old review spot. The water's really low today. I mean, it's really low. We haven't had any really good long rains in a while. It's been those sporadic storms that last for about 17 minutes and go away. So I'm gonna try to catch a few things today using the old Johnson Country Mile 10. I do have 10-pound line on it, just in case y'all were wondering. When you see these country miles, a lot of times they have a number. You'll have a Country Mile 6 or an 8 or a 10. That's the size line that came on them. Just wanted to put that in there, and thanks to Dan Selvig for reminding me of that. Otherwise, I would have probably never told you that. So anyway, let's cast this thing, 10-pound line. Now for 10-pound line, that ain't terrible. Ain't great either. Maybe we just need to get, that was a lot better. That was a better cast there. Maybe just got to get some of the line off of it. So I decided to put on a Whopper Plopper and actually catch a fish about 100 yards away. And now I'm trying my best to get him in. Man, he's making a wake. Come here. I'm pulling you out of the weeds. He actually came off the lure. And now I've got to try to get into the weeds and get him. I didn't even have the camera down here where I broke off and I got fed up over there at the pier with a Whopper Plopper. I'm not joking. I casted this thing. I had to cast that thing 85 yards easy. And of course that's where he hit. So hey, you know, Johnson did okay. I mean, it wasn't the greatest retrieve I ever made, but it did all right.
country mile, and that's just about how far I casted, country mile. Let me get him back in the water. Way out there where the decoy duck is floating. That's how far I casted that thing and caught that fish. Just watch me, okay? Just watch. This is, Andy, if you think I cast hard, you ain't seen nothing. It's way out there. Actually, I'm casting to where I usually stand when I'm fishing. The gear ratio on this thing is, well, I am really putting some rip into it to get the whopper plopper to whopper plop. So if anybody's wondering if the country mile is a topwater like buzz bait or whopper plopper bait or reel, it's not. It is not even close. Try one more time. And let's just put it where you didn't want it. Oh, I got a hit. I got a fish, people. Oh, he got off. He got off.
So there you go. The country mile did get used. What do I think about the country mile? That's the big thing. Okay, this particular country mile 10, what the 10 stands for is 10-pound line. Sometimes I have a tendency to let those little things like that slip, and you don't get to know that. Well, now you do. Thanks to Dan Selvig, who said if he was up here where I was at, he'd slap me on the wrist with a ruler and tell me and remind me to tell you guys that that 10 stands for 10-pound line. Okay, the tangle-free 8-pound line. So if you see things like that, like the tangle-free 8 or 6 or the country mile 10, a lot of times, or all the time, that's what that means. That's what size line came on that reel. Now, that's not saying that a 100B came with 100-pound line. 100B is the model, not what pound line came on it. I know some of you were thinking it. Now, what did I think of the reel? It worked okay. I didn't have a single solitary issue with it, other than I had a little bit of a line tangle at the beginning, but that was more my fault than the reel. And I cut a little bit of line off of it and it started working great. It casts really far. It's pretty darn smooth. Has that bearing in the middle, and it's pretty darn smooth. It's a pretty heavy reel. You'll definitely know that it's on the rod. It's got some weight to it. Drag works really good. Again, it's very smooth and it casts very far with some larger stuff on it. Now, where is the downfall to this reel? Gear ratio. Okay, it barely has one. You're not going to be skiing fish across the top of the water with this reel. Okay, it's not going to happen. To me, this reel right here would be a great small catfish. Even could go to salt water and put on a single hook and a 1-ounce sinker and whatever and cast out there, and you could catch croaker and spot, flounder, what else? Speckled trout, maybe, that kind of thing. But you are not going to pull a lure very quickly with this reel. Okay, it was everything I could do to get that whopper plopper's tail to plop and whop. I was really into this thing. My wrist still hurts, my shoulder still hurts. You really have to spin this thing and get it going. So, is it a good reel though? Yeah, I mean, it did fine with that bearing in the middle. It made all the difference in the world. Now, since that's been brought up, today's episode is going to be based a little bit more on subscriber questions. I generally save these things, and when I get enough of them, I kind of throw them out there and let people feel the real feeling they should have instead of a cold text about the answer to the question or whatever. So here's me answering your questions, I guess live. It's not live, but it is me, and I am live at this particular moment. Now, if anything happens in between now and the time you see this particular video, then I was live right now. Just letting you know. No AI or anything like that. No CGI. No ABC. No 1, 2, 3. No Jackson 5. Anyway, here's the question. And now we're going to go right to this particular, since I'm holding this in my hand. Do I like reels like this, or this is a country mile as well, but this is just a straight country mile. It does not have a number of any kind. It's just the country mile. So what do I like these as opposed to the graphite Johnson stuff? I like these better than the graphites. Yes, I will say that now. The one graphite that I do like, I have to say, was the Crappie Pro, I believe is what it was. And actually that reel now belongs to a good friend of mine, Harry Howard in New Mexico. I sent that reel to him because he actually sent me this particular country mile right here. And I sent him a Zebco 202 and a Crappie Pro. Altogether, he probably couldn't trade either one of them and get a cheeseburger from McDonald's. But they work, and he likes them, and that's what matters. So, Harry, I hope you're enjoying those reels. I'm enjoying these, and I appreciate you. Now, why do I like these better? These are made heavier. The footprint here, the neck where it comes together. You check out a graphite, say 225 or Crappie Pro or Tangle Free or something like that. They're very weak and very thin where the foot meets the body. And when you actually are reeling on this thing, or on one of those graphite ones, you can actually see the reel flexing. It's actually flexing each time you come around with it. So I've had feet break on them. And they're very sloppy. They tend to be very sloppy inside. They're very thin. The insides are very thin, where these are not. So this one, the drag worked great. Everything reeled great. It was tough. It was strong. It didn't have a flexy, cheap feeling to it. So I would take stuff like this or this over the graphite reels. Personal opinion, you asked, I'm telling you. That's how it's working out. Hey, second question. Let's go right on down the line right here, because I made a list of what you guys were asking so I wouldn't get lost. We're going to get a little bit off here just a minute. Watches. I got a question about the watches that I wear. I do have several. I have more than several. I'm going to make this real quick. In the early 2000s, I'd say late 90s, early 2000s, there was a watch outlet in Colonial Williamsburg, up that way around Williamsburg, and they went out of business. I am a wristwatch guy. I like wearing wristwatches. I prefer when I'm fishing to be able to do this and see what time it is, as opposed to trying to get this out of my pocket and try to see what time it is. I still know what the hands are and how to tell time with them, so at this point, I like wristwatches. Okay, watch outlet went out of business. They put everything out there, crazy, stupid clearance prices. It was like a madhouse. There was people, rolling and tumbling in the floors trying to get to watches and stuff. I came across this company, Zodiac. Okay, I bought about 10 of them because I got them for like $20 a piece, and they're pretty expensive watches. They were they're Swiss made. So they work very well. Had to change the battery every so often, but they've never let me down. I've only had one that ever broke, and that was the entire dial just fell off because I was working on a car with it and I had it on, and I smacked it on the block on the bottom of the engine and it broke. But that's the only one that I've ever had break. I've given several to my oldest son, Lucas. I've given a couple of them to Evan. My wife has 2 or 3 of her own. So I made out quite well. But Zodiac, that's the name of these watches that I use the most. There's my watch question answered for you. Hope that helped you out there. All right, next. Underspins. The small underspins. Pfluger makes a small underspin, and Zebco, obviously the ones that I always called the trash can, which is like the Legacy, the Omega, the UL4 Classic, those guys. Pfluger makes one that the model number eludes me at the moment. I did have some of those in the late 90s and early 2000s, the Pfluger version. They were very smooth. They started off good, but progressively went south on me, where line wouldn't come off it well. I'd restring it. I remember standing on the side of a river and completely taking all the line off of it and then winding the line back, completely back on the reel to straighten it back up. Then the more I used it, the more it got out of whack and then got to where it wouldn't cast. Where my Zebcos never did that. The Omega, the Legacy, the UL4, they never did that. Occasionally with a Zebco, I would cast and it would do a little bit of a snaggy thing, and I'd just pull the line out a little bit, wind it back in tight, and cast. Never gave me a problem. We called them the trash cans because they looked like a trash can. Look them up, the UL4. The UL4 was my favorite. Okay, that was my favorite, and I used it quite a bit. And then there was an 11T later on down the line that I started using. They were a little bit bulkier, a little heavier, didn't have that feather touch trigger on it, but I did use those too. But Zebco has always been my go-to for the underspin, smaller, like 4-pound line style trigger reels. There you go. I maybe will go on up to the old Bass Pro and grab a new Fluger, because they're still out there. They're still out there. Grab a new one of those little small underspin Flugers, and maybe, I do have a newer underspin, I think the Micro 33 or Micro something. It's a Zebco here that I might be able to do a little comparison if you want to see that. If that's something you'd like to see, I'll go up there and spend some more money for you. Anyway, Zebco, that's what I've always used, but maybe we'll do a little comparison video on the Fluger later on. All right, next question. This is a funny question, and a friend of mine asked me this that watches quite frequently. The guitar on the wall behind me. Well, that is a Framis Nashville. I believe when I looked it up before, Chet Atkins had something to do with the part of the design of the guitar, or the business-oriented part of the guitar. It was a guitar that was kind of a little bit ahead of its time, but wasn't just right. That's the best way I can put it. The switch was way too big and there was too many positions. The pickups are extremely twangy, stringy sounding. It had a bridge on it that was a little bit offset, and you couldn't get a replacement bridge because it was so weird. It was actually made in Germany, and I tried to get a bridge for it, but the guitar was worth about $250, but they wanted $300 for the bridge. Not very cost effective. However, that guitar does play, it does work. I changed the rear bridge, rewired the switch to make it a 3-position instead of the 5 or 4 that it was, and it does play. I can't begin to tell you how many times I have wished that I had the money to take that thing, put it in a case, and send it to some professional lutherer and have them put the right bridge on it, set that guitar up, put some new keys on it, and set it up where I could really play it. Because you know me, I enjoy seeing things have purpose again. And I really, really believe that that guitar would be fun to play. I'd change the pickups, new bridge, and leave it like it is as far as the physicality of its, or the visual aspect of the guitar, because it's got personality. But make it mechanically sound to be a good player. I would love to do that. If I had the money, I would do it right now. But some people, when it comes to the lutherers and guitar repair people, they want to pay a car payment or a mortgage payment or something off the guitar you bring in there. So there you go. Framis Nashville from 1973. Look it up if you get the chance. They're pretty funny. They're pretty cool little guitar. All right, next. Okay. Why do I ride the blue monkey more than the red one? Well, it's not that I ride the blue one more than the red one. And why do I go on the longer fishing trips, I believe is what I was asked from a good friend of mine, Sky Dancer, who's out there, been with me since almost the beginning. Gotta thank her for that. Why do I tend to go out more on the blue monkey than the red one? Well, it's just because you see me on the blue monkey more than you do the red one. All things are not created equal when they are man-made, okay? The blue monkey for whatever reason, has a little bit better top end than the red and white monkey. Don't ask me why. They're geared identically. Everything's the same horsepower rating, same everything. Those two bikes are almost identical, except the red and white one has ABS, where the blue and white one does not. And for some reason, the blue monkey can run 60, 65. I mean, you're talking about a vehicle with 9 horsepower, okay? There's push mowers out there that have more horsepower than the monkey does. But for whatever reason, the red and white one has a really good takeoff, a very good from a dead stop takeoff, and zips through the gears real quick and gets up to speed fast. Where the blue one it's okay, don't get me wrong, the red one would beat it in a drag race. But in longevity-wise, distance-wise, the blue and white monkey would end up passing the red one because it just has a better top end. I don't understand why. There's no real differences there, but yet there's enough of a difference. And when you drive and ride as much as I do, you notice these things. You can feel it in the engine. You can feel it in the shift. So for whatever reason, that blue and white one, when I first started taking on all these trips, I guess it just figured out, hey, I've got to be long-winded. I got to have some long legs here if I'm going to ride with this guy. And that's how it turned out. So the red and white one, I do drive a lot. I do ride a lot. But it's more back and forth to work, up to the store, auto parts, maybe something like that. That's more what you'll see the red and white one doing. Sadly, though, the red and white one has a better basket and boxes for fishing on the back of it than the blue and white one does. But the blue and white one was the prototype. So I kind of perfected it on the red and white one. So now when I build a new one for the blue and white one, I know what to do. So anyway, I know that you're probably all wondering about the giveaway. I'll tell you that quite a few have let me know that they want to be put in the drawing. So I put your name in the hat, and what's going to happen is next Sunday at midnight, when all this is said and done, the next day we are going to, which will be Monday, Evan is going to get up Monday morning and start tallying all the names, and we're going to get them all written down. And we're doing it old school. There ain't going to be any computer picks and any of that junk. It's going to be names in the hat. Poof, going to go right in the hat. We're going to mix them all around and pull a name out. I might let my wife do it, or my son, or somebody will do it. I won't do it. But that's how we're going to do it. And just keep on letting me know that you want to be on there. Now, sadly, one of the things I messed up on and didn't say, but we had to put in the video, was this kind of has to be in the U.S. only. I can't afford to ship a $15 fishing reel for $105 overseas somewhere. I just can't do that. So I'm sorry. And for those of you who do watch what I do, and you're over there across the creeks and the rivers and stuff away from me, I very much appreciate you. You have no idea. I really, really do. Because of YouTube and because of this type of thing, I've got to help people fix a fishing reel, or talk about a fishing reel, or maybe even coax them into going to buy one that they may not have thought they were going to go buy. All because of YouTube, and all overseas in different places all over the world. And I just can't begin to tell you how exciting that is for me, simple old me. I enjoy it. I really do. So sorry I can't ship something that far. I can't afford to, really. But either way, I very much appreciate y'all all watching. So anyway, there you go. Subscriber questions and a little fishing with the old Country Mile 10. We'll see you on Sunday. I guess that's what we'll have to do. I'll see you on the next one, whatever the next one may be. The next one may be on Sunday, but I don't know what it's going to be, because as of right now, this is Monday, and I'm making this video, and I don't know. I got no idea. I've asked Boo to help me. He won't help. He just lays there and looks at me, yawns occasionally, scratches, stretches. He don't care. It ain't bothering him. Any watching it bother him? He's a cat. I don't care about that stuff. Ain't no difference to him at all. All he wants is to be fed. He got up just now. He's hungry.